everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jennifer Ramirez, and I am the program coordinator for the Women's Fund. We are so excited to be collaborating with the University of Houston downtown campus on a lecture series again this semester. Before we get started with today's presentation, I would like to tell you a little bit about the Women's Fund. The Women's Fund was founded in 1979, and we have focused our efforts on empowering Houston area girls and women to be advocates for their own health and wellness. We accomplish this by providing free curriculum-based classes, lunch and learns, workshops and lectures like today's presentation, as well as our 4 publications, all which can be downloaded on our website. And we have placed a few copies in the back table for those of you here in person. Feel free to take any on your way out. We also have volunteer opportunities, so there is a sign-up sheet in the back if you are interested. At the end of our presentation, we ask that you fill out an evaluation to provide us with feedback. I will be emailing that evaluation out for those of you who are tuning in online. And now I would like to introduce today's moderator, Dr. Tony Hong. Dr. Hong is a tenured associate professor of communication studies and the assistant chair of the Department of Arts and Communications here at UHD. She holds a PhD in communication and maintains an active research program in health communication as well as risk and crisis communication. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started, Dr. Hong.
Hey, good to see everyone. Thank you all for joining in person and also online. If you take a moment to maybe silence your cell phones for the panelists, that would be wonderful. I'm Dr. Tony Hong with my associate, Dr. Ashley Archer-Poli. We welcome you. We've been working with the Women's Fund for a little over 7 years to bring presentations like this to you on campus and also online. So it's very exciting to see all of you here. We're also thrilled. Today's panel is on quality of life. And so the panelists that you have before you each bring a different perspective. Before we get started, I also want to take the opportunity to thank several people who worked hard on the programming and provided support and inspiration for our event today. We thank Linda Rhodes, who's the director, and Jennifer Ramirez from the Women's Fund for Health Education and Resiliency. They've also helped us to secure 2 of the panelists today. Mr. Eugene Bernard, director of the UHD Basic Needs Center, for providing financial support for production services. Our astute production engineers in the back for managing the live stream and the recording. UHD Reservations for accommodating all of our requests to host in this lovely space. And then the larger community of volunteers and professionals who serve people in need every day. So the purpose of today's discussion is to spotlight issues related to quality of life. And our panelists are here to offer support, information, and resources on how to cope with challenges. During the discussion, if you have a question, we ask you to kind of store it away for a moment, and we'll be passing out note cards towards the end. If you would like to write your question on a note card and then hand it over, we'll be able to ask the panelists on your behalf. So we're eager to introduce today Kim Williams. Kim is a healthcare executive with more than 25 years of experience in healthcare marketing, communications, sales, and community engagement. Currently, Kim is the Assistant Vice President of Community Engagement for HCA Healthcare Gulf Coast Division, which serves 16 hospitals in Houston and South Texas. Kim is also a mental health advocate, ally, speaker, and panelist whose passion is to open the door for the hard conversations around mental health and close the door on stigmas. She serves as the NAMI peer-to-peer leader and is a trained Stephen minister. Next to Kim sits Jeffrey Edwards. After earning certifications as a nursing assistant and medical assistant and his Associate of Science in Radiology and Associate degree in Nursing and Vocational Nursing, Jeffrey earned his Bachelor's of Science in Nursing as an RN from Excelsior College of Nursing in Albany, New York. Jeffrey has been a nurse at Kelsey-Seybold since 2009 and enjoys spending time with patients and educating them about their illnesses and disease processes. He cares for patients seeking preventative care, immunizations, and travel medicine, and treats a wide range of conditions, including anxiety and depression, allergies, asthma, and skin conditions. His favorite part of working in medicine is seeing patients come back to him after developing a bond. Next to Jeffrey is Naomi Berger Perez, Director of Counseling Services at UHD. Naomi has worked in the field of mental health for over 16 years and is a licensed professional counselor and licensed marriage and family therapist, holding a supervisor status for both. She has a passion for guiding and teaching other counselors and takes pride in those that she has led to become fully licensed. As a native Houstonian, Naomi has worked in a wide range of mental health settings, starting out in the nonprofit sector at a domestic violence agency and an organization for children, adolescents, and families in Houston's inner city. She has also worked with those populations who have complex medical needs, both physically and emotionally, and most recently as an employee assistance program counselor for a large hospital system, offering a wide range of support through various counseling modalities for children, adolescents, and adults. Naomi operates from a center person approach and one of open-mindedness, and that every day is a learning experience in which we can learn. And our last panelist is Michelle Holt. Michelle Holt was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Her family moved to San Antonio on her first birthday. At the age of 2, Michelle and her family ended up moving to Houston. Michelle is a mother of 4 children and a wife to a veteran of the U.S. Army. Her passion for helping others derives from her challenging childhood experiences. Michelle received her GED at the age of 16 years old and decided to further her education. She received her associate degree in criminal justice from Ventura College in Ventura, California in 2011. Michelle is also a UHD alumni, graduating from UHD in 2013 with a bachelor's in criminal justice and a minor in psychology. Michelle went on to receive her master's in criminal justice from Lamar University in 2022. Michelle began her professional career at the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services as a child specialist. In her role as a child specialist, Michelle removed children in dangerous situations from homes and admitted children to emergency shelters until adequate placement was found. Michelle continued to serve at-risk youth and families as a Justice of the Peace Court Liaison with Harris County. In her role as a Justice of the Peace Court Liaison, Michelle provided professional oversight and coordination of social service referrals to youth and families appearing before the Justice of the Peace Courts. Michelle is also a proud member of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, whose motto is greater service, greater progress. Michelle hopes that by providing greater service to the students at UHD, it will lead to greater progression towards student success. Michelle brings her vast knowledge and community resources and compassion for others to the Basic Needs Center here at UHD. We extend our admiration and appreciation to all of you. Thank you for joining us. So, our discussion begins today with a question for any one of our panelists. How have people's views shifted in regard to quality of life in the last few years?
I'll go first. The last one was what I've seen, especially during the pandemic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What I've seen, especially in the last few years regarding the pandemic of the quality of life, is that people have either decided to push forward, like I'm going to go after that job, I'm going to go after that degree, I'm going to write that book. Or on the other hand, they recluse and they don't have a passion. So those are the two very different sides that I've seen as far as the quality of life has changed, especially during the pandemic.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Good afternoon. So I would agree. The pandemic has really brought a different view to what our work-life balance is in the workforce. So I work in healthcare, and so I weathered the storm. I'm not a clinician, but I am in administration. And so I worked closely with our leaders and our nurses and our physicians. And you kind of see two paths. You see those people that are like, you know what, this is what I was born to do, and I love this, and this is great. And they went all in and have really enjoyed their career. And then there are other people who've stepped back and said, this isn't what I signed up for. I don't want to do this anymore. And they've taken a different path. And so I think it's been a very opportune time to look and see what is it that you really want to do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to add to that? to that?
Yeah, in the world of mental health, we have seen very different opposites. Sometimes we hear people say, well, I was quarantined and it brought me and my family together.
Hmm.
And it's actually a benefit. And for the others, it was disastrous because they live in homes that are not healthy environments.
Mhm.
So it really is a testimony to the resiliency factors of society and what they can deal with and what they can't, and whether they're going to use it as a stumbling stone or a stepping stone. And so the vast opposites of how people have coped with the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic times, it varies, and it really is a test.
Thanks. Anything else to add?
I agree.
Okay.
I mean, it has definitely been a struggle. As a healthcare employee that literally weathered the storm for many years, with employees coming in and out of work due to COVID, virus infection, and the fact that, people decided as nurses, maybe this wasn't for me, and maybe I do need another career choice. And, I think that's great. I think that people should get that spur and do what they want to do in life and not be stuck in a rut or doing something that they really hate or don't even like every single day of their life, because it really takes a toll on your mental health abilities.
And Jeffrey, on that note, drawing from your experience as a practitioner, can you provide an example about physical health and how that significantly is tied to quality of life?
Well, physical health is something that everybody struggles with. All of us are trying to get out there and move and shake and get on exercise, find something, a routine that we like, actually working out. And even if it's just walking, brisk walking, jogging, running, treadmill, bike, exercise, anything, we just need to get out there and be active. I think after the pandemic, we were kind of shut up in the house for a long time. And so a lot of people got unhealthy. And so now we have to kind of make a turn and change for the better and, get people out there more, be active, go walk in the parks, take your kids out and go and have activities, go with friends and do fun stuff, really get out there and start moving. It takes a huge toll on us and our bodies if we don't actually get exercise. And so, it is really important for us as humans to actually be out there and moving. If you have a sedentary life, the likelihood of you having some type of comorbidity or disease process from just sitting around is even more higher.
Mhm.
And so we really have to work to get out there and actually, shake it. And I always tell patients, it doesn't matter if you get 10 minutes a day, at least it was 10 minutes that you didn't do before. Maybe next week or next month, try for 20 minutes or 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Try and increase that activity just a little bit, because the more that you're active, the more that you feel like you can do more.
Thank you for that. That's excellent advice. Michelle, I want to turn to you. What are some activities for students that might be able to incorporate into their daily schedule? We're constantly running around. We see our students going to classes, running to jobs, running home. What are some things that they might be able to incorporate in their lives to help improve their quality of life?
Well, one thing that I can do for myself when I was a student here, we live in a beautiful campus. There's 9 buildings at UHD, and there's beautiful trails. So I would recommend all students just to take a break, put the phone down, put the book down, put everything down, and just go out and walk if weather permits. Journal if you can about your feelings, about what's going on in your lives. Talk to a friend and see if you can just unpack everything that's going on with finals and all the stresses that you have going on. But definitely my favorite thing to do is just unplug and walk around and see everything that's going on around me. It makes me feel like, oh, okay, I can regroup and get back at it because I see other people out there getting it as well as I'm doing it. So just take a break and walk around and probably get something to eat, not Chick-fil-A, get something healthy.
Thank you for that. And I'll turn to Naomi next to you. Do you have a suggestion or a recommendation that you might offer to someone who's trying to find that work, life, and family balance and school balance? Something, again, relevant to our students or anyone in the audience, actually.
Yeah, so it really depends on the lifestyle of the person. When we think of those strategies, it's case by case. So we have to figure out the family, the school, the work, and what can you do? What's realistic? What's a realistic goal? You know, and every semester or every year may look different for that person. And so, you know, maybe you have an easier class load and you implement taking walks around campus during a break, or maybe your job permits you to take a full 1 hour lunch and doing something, and even if it's not walking, it's sitting outside, reading, family time. You know, what's your priority? Most people in here would say family is their priority. And so you kind of have to balance it that way. So it really is a case-by-case basis on what's going on in your life, and picking and choosing, but also setting boundaries with things that don't fill you up, that are not, that don't sit well with your spirit. So setting boundaries is also important, and being able to say no so you can commit more time to the things that you want to commit to that bring you happiness. And so it really depends on the lifestyle of the person and what area of their life is the priority.
Excellent, thank you. I want to turn to Kim for a moment and ask about interpersonal relationships. How do our interpersonal relationships, whether it's peers in the class or outside of class, how do those impact our perception about our own quality of life?
Well, I have the privilege actually today to have a friend that I've had for 35 years sitting on the front row here from my college years. So we met at Texas A&M, and I would say we have weathered a lot of storms together in life. And everyone you know in life is going through something. Everybody, whether it's the first Christmas without a mom or a dad, or hunger or depression, everybody is going through something. And so it is so important for us to have a supportive group of friends and family. Sometimes it's family and sometimes it's not family, right? And so I am a certified trainer for Inspiring Comfort, and we talk about supportive care. And I go in to universities and organizations and talk about supportive care. And I'm so excited today because we've got mental health professionals here. So we have, think of a barbell where we have mental health professionals and then self-care. How many of you have heard about self-care, especially in the last 3-4 years, right? It's all about self-care. And while these are great, you've got to have supportive care. And actually, supportive care is your biggest part. You have to have a number of friends and family that are willing to walk the roads with you. So I think it's so important.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, I've made a mental note of supportive care, and really going to make a committed effort towards that. Thank you. For anyone on the panel, here's another question just for everyone. What are the most critical changes that we might need to make? And maybe some of you have also touched on this. What are some of the critical changes that we need to make when we face, as we're moving forward, right? So I heard things like really being able to say no, or setting boundaries. Is there anything else in addition to that for folks to be able to put the next foot forward and keep moving forward?
One of the things that I think is very important is don't feel like you have to do everything. I have a wonderful, wonderful supervisor, but he feels like he has to do everything, and delegating things to other people. You know, you have this project due, you got to pick up groceries, you got to make sure that the kids are okay. Is my partner okay? But do you have to do literally everything? You can get that support, say no, instill those boundaries, and then you'll be able to prioritize what takes place in order so that you can move forward in a healthy manner.
I definitely say you have to make a plan, and plans change. So even though you might have a plan for the day, that day might go completely different. And you have to be okay with making that change be okay, but still trying to get done as much as you can. And some things won't get done that day and that you wanted to get done, but you just have to prioritize life. And some things are more important than others. Some things come up quicker and they need to be addressed faster. So you have to be able to adapt and change and be able to mold. And some of that is very hard for some of us. We are, this needs to happen and that needs to happen. And it's like time. Well, life is not timed out. And so you have to be able to accept that some things are going to happen. You get a flat tire, that's something that you can't change, but it's going to change your plan, but it's okay. It's more important to take care of that than to get to picking up the groceries or, things. Have people that can help you out, that if you're not able to do one thing, they can help you and do it as well. So definitely having your support group. And it doesn't have to always be family, like you said. It can be friends. It can be, your partners, your other people that you have in your life, even coworkers. There are other people out there that are wanting to lift you up and support you, and that's what's important.
Absolutely. And on that note, Jeffrey, you mentioned earlier about preventative care. We talked a little bit about that. Is it essential for optimizing our long-term quality of life? How would you respond to that?
I think it depends on the person. I think, yes, preventative care is great, and I do a lot of preventative care. That's most of all of what I do every day. In primary care, that is our main goal, is to close care gaps and to get things taken care of with patients. They might come in for a sore throat, but I'm like, look, your tetanus shot is overdue and you haven't had your flu shot yet, and it looks like you need a physical and your cholesterol checked. Let's just do it all today and get it over with. You're here already. Let's just have the time, make it happen. I've caught you today. I might not catch you in a week or two. So while you're here, let's just try and take care of everything, kind of wrap up loose ends that we might have, in life. Making sure that we take care of ourselves is the most important thing to life and survival. If we don't take care of our own bodies and our own self, then we're going to lead ourselves to diseases and illnesses and sicknesses that are going to drag us down and cause additional problems that we're going to have to fight to get over. And so it's just better to make sure that you're protected against things, even as simple as the flu shot. It's a 5-second to do, but a lot of patients, I have to spend 5 or 10 minutes discussing about it and kind of coaxing them into getting it maybe sometimes, or giving them education and telling them why it's so important to protect ourselves so that you don't end up in the hospital, and then really have problems long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just builds up, right, into stress, and then just this continuation of fighting that stressful lifestyle, right, and then having to figure out what to do next and when can I do that. And I want to turn to Naomi. What's a common misconception about stress? What have you heard from anyone?
I really like that question. Thank you. And it's kind of in line with what Jeffrey was saying, but the biggest misconception that we've seen about stress is that it can take on give your body physical warning signs that you're stressed, but you don't know that it's related. Like so many comorbidities, hypertension, gastro issues, stomach issues, body pain, back pain, neck pain, insomnia, exactly. And so people, they kind of take those things on as normal. They feel like that for a while and they just think it's normal. They don't think anything is wrong with it. And then they may crash, right? It's too much, and they burn out. So it's really surprising for many clients to think that these chronic pains, hypertension, those kinds of things have to do with stress, but they totally do. So that is one of the biggest misconceptions that we see, but that also you can do something about it if you implement some of the strategies of self-care. So that is, you feel me. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we've noticed with stress-related issues.
Thank you. So Michelle, I know you've had a lot of interaction and contact with almost everyone here, or other folks from various backgrounds at UHD. And I want to ask you, just surrounding ourselves with people who experience the same thing as us, or similar, we think we're experiencing things similarly. Does that help or improve our quality of life?
I think it can, in a way. You feel like you can build a tribe if you know that someone else is going through something that you're going through similarly.
Yeah.
You don't feel alone, because a lot of times we think that our struggles are just, affecting us. We're the only ones that this is happening to. But that's not true. And if you talk to people, and possibly you can even build like a little support group yourself of certain situations that we're going through, and then you can have like a whole support system that you didn't think that you can have before because you felt like you were isolated. But it's very important for us to talk about our issues. I recently was able to talk about something that I went through, and it gave someone else the courage in order to say what they were going through. So yes, it's very important and it can help.
Thank you. I like that. I mean, we don't realize who's sitting next to us. We might have more in common than we know. And until you perhaps make that effort to get to know each other or find out what you do have in common, because many of you are here on a very similar journey, right? Going through school, and even faculty here. If faculty can't help support you, there are other resources here on campus that can lend a hand. Kim, I want to turn to you for a minute now. What strategies can be used to cultivate that social support network in situations where maybe we're more in solitude? So if we're more of an individual and we haven't yet made those close connections with other classmates, what can we do?
So I think there's several things that you can do. Number one, the most important thing is not to isolate. Isolating and being alone leads to just really, for myself, let me just say that, it has led for some very bad depressions. And so people know when I'm isolating that it's not a really good time for me and I need actually the support. So making sure that you're not isolating. One of the things that I heard the Women's Fund talk about when Jennifer introduced the Women's Fund is talking about volunteering. And I think volunteering is so important because you're able to meet new people. And I have always found that I think I get more back when I volunteer than what I give. It always goes that way. And so I think that is something that you could do as well. And then the final thing I would say is what we teach in Inspiring Comfort is the 3-3-3 rule. So I want you to think about taking 3 minutes every day. Can everyone agree that we probably can take 3 minutes away from your phone? And I want you to contact 3 people every day for the next 90 days, okay? So 3-3-3. 3 people, take 3 minutes and contact 3 people, whether that's sending them a meme, a song, a voicemail, a voice recording, an email, or picking up the phone and actually calling. That may not be y'all's gig, but we did that in college. We talk a lot. And don't have the same 3 people every day. But what you'll find is you're supporting other individuals and you're building relationships. And after 3 months of doing that, you've really bonded well. And you know what people are going through and what support you can provide.
That's wonderful. I wrote that down. 3-3-3, 3-3-3, 3 minutes, 3 people, and for 3 months. Okay.
And just to piggyback off the volunteering, the Basic Needs Center is always looking for volunteers in the food market, okay? And that'll be a great way for you to network, meet other students that are in the same positions as you, and you get first dibs. So shipment days are every Wednesday, Thursday, every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And we look forward to seeing you there. So thank you for that, Kim.
I'd like to say one more thing is if you have an opportunity to have a mentor, if you're a student, that's so important because you are able to learn so much from a mentor, and a mentee is able to provide, especially people like myself who are a little bit older, so many skill sets that maybe I don't know. I'm not as quick on the phone as everybody else is, when you're 25. But it's such a wonderful opportunity. And there are a lot of people in corporations, and definitely in mine, but in all corporations, that are just wanting to mentor someone. It may be just for a semester, right? Or it may be someone that could just talk to you periodically. But I think that also is building a community of professionals.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as we're moving from one phase to another in life, and, what might be other ways that our quality of life changes? This is just for anyone on the panel. And it's not just with age, it's with experiences, right? So our quality of life changes when we have particular experiences, whether those are very exciting and positive or something traumatic or very sad. So how do we get through that? I mean, you did mention I've heard several of you talk about different strategies, but what are some other ways just to be mentally ready for those types of transitions? And again, keeping quality of life as a constant on our minds.
I think I'm going to go back to saying that everyone you know is going through something. And I think in life, we're all just going to go through things. We're going to go through failed relationships. We're going to go through maybe careers that don't work for us, maybe jobs that don't work, or maybe a semester that wasn't so good. I had a few of those myself. And so I think we have to realize that we are all having an experience here in life. And if we are prepared and make sure that we have some tools in our toolboxes, friends that are 35 years in the making, right? Or family or other supportive care, I think that is going to improve our quality of life.
I can speak to that a little bit too. One of the things that we often see is students thinking they should be in a certain place at a certain age, at a certain time, and comparing themselves to where somebody else is. Right. Comparison is the thief of joy, Theodore Roosevelt. And so understanding that every stage of life development looks different for people. And so, what you're going through at 25 may not be the same thing that somebody else is going through at 25 because of your circumstances. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so to speak to that question, just meeting yourself where you're at and knowing that you're good enough and what you're doing is good enough. And remembering that your path does not always look the same as somebody else's path. And I think that mindset and kind of changing that frame of mind to more positive can speak volumes to quality of life.
I mean, I definitely know I've been through it for sure. And so, as you go through life, it's never like exactly what you plan. And so you have to always adapt and change, and if you have a passion, then you have to kind of stick with your passion and continue to love it and nurture it. And as you love it and nurture it, you'll learn a lot. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody can graduate from high school early, and some people are late, and that's okay. You are on your own path. Mm-hmm. You can't look at somebody else's path and expect it to be the same as yours.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is such a prevalent issue, is this social comparison, when we're constantly comparing ourselves to our peers, whether it's someone in our class or maybe some of the images and the things that we see online from our phones, or that we're bombarded with on TV and in movies. And it starts to be detrimental because it begins to be, oh, that's the expectation, that's the norm, even though my background, my history, my experiences are very different. Have any of you had interactions with people, patients, clients who have come to you feeling that they're, again, on this note, that they're not good enough, they're not meeting expectations of their professors, their peers, their parents?
I mean, every single day, almost. Mm-hmm. I always ask people, how are they doing? And they are always like, fine. But I'm like, but no, how are you doing? Mm-hmm. How is life going? Like, what's work like? What's home like? Mm-hmm. What's going on? And they're like, what? And I'm like, well, I'm trying to figure out about you. I want to learn a little bit about you and see how you're doing, in life. And they're like, well, I have a lot of problems in this. And it opens up a door for them to kind of be like, oh, okay, I feel comfortable talking. Mm-hmm. Let me kind of just leak out a little bit of what's been going on in my life. And then all of a sudden the leak becomes a flood. And then, it helps them because they feel better. They let it out finally. They told somebody the problems and they feel a little better. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you're able to actually utilize that and then maybe tell other people what's been going on with you that you haven't been able to talk to, parents or friends or family, loved ones, and really let it out. Talking about your feelings is something that for many years people said we don't do. And it's really detrimental to all of us. And so you really have to be able to talk about what's going on in your life and in your head, because everybody's head's different. Not everybody thinks the same. And so all of that makes a big difference.
For me, starting with a GED at 16 years old, you would have never told me that I'd be sitting right here, ever. And so I found out that the only person I'm in competition with is myself. I'm going to be the best Michelle the next day, and the next level, and the next level, and the next level. And that takes the pressure off me having to compete with Naomi, with Jeff, and with Kim, because I'm only comparing myself. And so life doesn't go from A to B, it goes all like this. And give yourself grace, because you've never been where you are, and you're never going to be where you're going. So just give yourself a little time.
I think I'd also like to say that while social media is a great thing, and I know that you've all grown up with it, there are times in my life when I'm not feeling great, and I'm kind of looking around at everybody else thinking, well, they're married, they have grandkids, they have kids, or they're successful. And I know that I'm not in a good frame of mind. I know I'm hitting one of my depressive states. And so I know that it's best for me to turn off my social media. And that can be hard, but if you watch the Social Dilemma, the movie on that is set up for you to see only good things, and it's targeted, right? And so while I'm not saying it's bad, I'm saying if you're not in a good headspace with yourself, that may be something that you need to step away from for your quality of life.
So the question is, how do we prioritize ourselves? How do we put ourselves first, right, in everything that we do? And I love what you said, Michelle. Is there anyone else on the panel? How do we put ourselves first and prioritize ourselves?
I think earlier we talked about boundaries and figuring out ways to fit ourselves in where we can, where the little things. If we can put ourselves first in regards to making sure our basic needs are met, we're sleeping, we're having our meals, we're taking medications as prescribed when we have them. Any type of structure, routine that we can put into place, unpredictability is kind of the foundation of anxiety and excessive worry. And so if we can implement structure and routine into our day, we have something predictable. And we know we're putting ourselves first because we set that our plan for the day. And so, we talked about boundaries, basic needs, hierarchy of needs. Everybody, I don't know if anybody's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We have basic needs right here, and the basic needs are at the bottom. So if by noon you're feeling not so great, assess your basic needs. Did I eat breakfast? Am I going to eat lunch? Did I take my medication this morning for my high blood pressure? Did I get a good night's rest the night before? And so kind of evaluate if your basic needs have been met for the first part of the day. And if they haven't, maybe implement something to take a long lunch or take a break and kind of finish off the rest of your day strong. So little strategies like that is really putting yourself first. It may not seem so, but it really is.
I love that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be a small step, right? And you mentioned something that I want to dive into a little bit more about sleep. I don't know about everyone else in this room, but sleep is so hard to come by when you're working, when you're a parent, when you're a professor, when you're a student, when you have all these different hats that you wear. Sleep is a commodity, right? We're always looking for more sleep. How does sleep affect our stress? How does that affect our health, our overall health, not just mental health, but overall health?
I'll start. Sleep is really important. I tell people all the time, 5 hours is not enough, okay? And sporadic sleep is not that good either because you don't actually get into REM cycle, so you're not really actually getting good sleep. Sleeping allows our body to reset, refresh, renew, get ready, get started, kind of shut down and take a break. And if we're not doing this because we're stretching ourselves so thin, it's going to have a crash. You're going to fall down. You cannot go days without sleep, I'll tell you. If so, then you are a chaotic mess usually. And so it's really important to try. And I see a lot of people that are like, oh, I have too many things that I need to do. And I'm like, well, cut some of those things out because you have to make time for yourself. And if you don't make time for yourself, then you are gonna burn out or you're gonna crash. And either way, it's not gonna end well for you. You know, that could be a loss of grades or a job or homework or whatever. It's gonna slip. Things are gonna slip because you don't get sleep.
And I'll piggyback on that and say that there are two books that I recommend. One is called The Body Keeps the Score, and the other one is The Myth of Normal. And both of those books talk about how you cannot cheat your body out of stress and management. And what I mean by that is your body will present with illness if you don't sleep. For me, I have shown up in an ER for the past couple of years, every year about the same time because of my stress level at work and me not sleeping. And so your body will give out on you physically, and your mind will give out on you mentally if you don't take care of yourself.
And some things I can recommend if you're having a hard time sleeping, since we keep phones in our hands all the time, if you have a smartphone, you'll be able to do like a sleep schedule. And then you can put everything on Do Not Disturb, so you're not bothered. So between this time and this time, I'm going to sleep. I'm going to take a nap, or I'm going to bed. And your notifications won't go off, and they'll go off as soon as you set that timer for 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, or whatever time that is. But you cannot perform if you're not resting. And like Jeffrey said, we need that time to reset.
I think that's another way to set boundaries, because if you set your smartphone to notifications off, it also lets other people know that I'm not available. Just because I might be at home, it doesn't mean I'm available for you to text and call and ask for something. So that's another way I think you can set up like that invisible boundary, right? Hey, this is not a good time. Yeah. And we can do that during our school day too, right? You can set the notifications throughout the day, not just when you need to go to sleep. So, thank you. Let's see, where are we? Let's check my time. Okay. I want to shift a minute here about being a caregiver. And, you know, one of the things I'll share with everyone here is that I'm a family caregiver. My mother-in-law has Alzheimer's, and she's survived like several strokes, and she lives with us. And so my husband and I take care of her, and it takes a toll. If you can imagine someone, and if you're familiar with Alzheimer's, it's where someone essentially loses their cognitive ability to do things for themselves. So she's no longer mobile. Once in a while, she recognizes us, and many times she's just generally confused. And so in addition to taking care of her physical needs, we also have to cope with her loss of identity and who she was before she had this illness. So I mention that because as we're moving from different stages in life, you might be somewhat of a lay caregiver or a family caregiver for someone in your family. And it could be something temporary. Maybe it's not a permanent illness. But how does being a caregiver or someone who provides significant support to somebody in our family, parent, a sibling, how does that also increase or affect our quality of life? I'll leave it there. And that's for anybody on the panel.
You know, it changes your identity sometimes. It's not supposed to, and we have to be careful of that. But caregiver exhaustion is real. And so oftentimes when we get caught up in caregiving for other people, we forget about ourselves. And finding some way to get that respite relief from the environment and not feeling guilty when you take time out from supporting that person, that's a big thing. And so I guess caregiving can be, it can change as you through the life stage development. It also may be not something that you expected. And so the plans for the future are kind of overcome by caregiving for a mother or a grandmother or even a special needs child. And so incorporating self-care and not feeling guilty about it, it's often a struggle for people. But if you do so, it'll improve the quality of life of that person you're caring for and for yourself. That's a challenging one.
I would also say there are a lot of support groups, and I would encourage people to get support, whether that's the Alzheimer's Association or NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness for family members or for yourself. I think that, yeah, you can't do it alone. That's what this world is all about. You really cannot do it alone.
I mean, caregiver role strain is for real. You know, it is absolutely a thing that will affect at least everybody almost. You know, everybody's going to have one person, either whether it be your mom or dad or children or grandparents or even a loved one that might be, you know, having illnesses or have cancer or something that they might pass away from. You are always going to have to take care of somebody. And just know that hopefully somebody will take care of you if you have the same issues. And it definitely takes a toll on our bodies. And we have to be careful and watch that and be mindful and know that we have to support ourselves, because if you can't save yourself, how are you going to be able to save somebody else that's in worse condition than you?
That's true. Michelle, do you have anything to add to that as someone who might speak to students who are come to you and say, you know, I'm not able to meet these basic needs because of these other demands that I have?
Yes, especially when it comes to caregiving and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I partner with Naomi and the counseling department. They've been such a great help. Any kind of community resources that we can tie them to, especially if it leads to grief. You know, that is a big one. And a lot of people don't know that there is grief counseling, free grief counseling in the community that they can go to help them with that. I myself, I was a caregiver for my brother. And I think one of the things that I struggled with when he passed was I didn't do a good enough job to help him, you know, but that wasn't on me. You know, that was something that was naturally that happened. And that's something that I had to seek support for. So it was like Kim said, don't be afraid to ask for help. We partner with our community partners and our campus community to support our students and kind of wrap around them if they're experiencing something like that.
So we reached the point of the panel where just one lasting impression, a lasting comment, a recommendation, a resource, a book to read, anything that comes to mind. I'd like for each panelist to maybe give one piece of advice or a recommendation or, like I said, a resource or something. And then we'll open it up for questions from the audience. If I can have Jennifer from the Women's Fund is going to pass around note cards. So if anyone has a question in the audience, we can turn those into or listen to the panelists. But any lasting impression, a final thought?
Well, you know what I'm going to say. Basic needs. North 210, we are here to support you. Housing, transportation, food market, emergency financial assistance, or just connection with anything in the community, we are here to support you guys. Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, excluding holidays, okay?
You read my mind, Michelle. Students, you get free counseling services as an enrolled student. Unlimited sessions at this time. We have 6.5 counselors to serve your needs. Licensed clinicians. One of them is after hours virtually 4 to 8, Monday through Thursday, and the first and third Saturday of the month from 10 to 1. The Saturday clients have not been showing up. So if you are interested in a Saturday appointment, please reach out to us. And so for employees, staff, and faculty, there is the EAP, Employee Assistance Program. I'm going to put a plug in for them because counseling services cannot accommodate faculty and staff at this time. It's paid for by fees from students. And so Deer Oaks EAP, you get 3 free sessions by calling the triage line. As a former EAP counselor, I called it myself just to see what it would be like. And it was a wonderful experience. They were great. They did an intake and they connected me to some resources. So please take advantage of those free resources that are available. Even if it's just to check in and do an intake, do the intake. That's the first step. If you say, they reached out to me for an appointment and I'm not going to go at this time, at least your intake is on file. So if you need an appointment, you can get in as soon as possible. So I'll always encourage, establish the care. If you don't follow through, it's okay. You can come back. If you cancel or no show, it's okay. We're not going to be mad. We understand. And so please reach out again.
I have to say, you have to make sure that you take care of yourself. Your body's the most important thing to you, and a part of your body is your mind. And so you have to make sure that you are making sure that it's in a good shape. Because if it's not in good shape, then, well, that's going to be a problem later in life. And you really need to make sure that you are, taking advantage of some of these programs and all of this that they have offering to you. Counseling is expensive, guys. And so if you have to pay out of pocket, it's a lot of money. And so having free is great. And licensed clinicians, that's the best because they actually know how to talk to you and what to say. And they're not going to be judgmental or anything. They're very open, and anything that you could talk about is, of course, between you guys, and they're just there to try and help you. And you really need to utilize those kinds of services if you're having problems. Not every school or university has that type of stuff. And so it's amazing that it has it and that you should utilize it. And so I say, go out and use the free stuff because free is amazing.
Yes.
Well, I think you have a lot of resources that you found out about today if you did not know about them. I did not know about resources at my university when I went there, so I relied on my friends a lot. I'm a very big proponent of therapy. Therapy in the good times, therapies in the bad times, right? I mean, it's really good for therapy. I'm also a big proponent of making sure that you get your medical exams yearly, just like your dental exams that you get, preventative care. And then finally, make sure you've got your supportive care lined up, your 333.
Thank you. All right. So we have a few questions from the audience that we'll entertain, and we'll just open it up to any panelists. I don't see anything that's for a specific panelist. So the first question is, do you think by growing up competitive, as in with grades, sports, etc., that causes stress on younger people to be a certain way and compare ourselves to others?
That's a good one. And yes, I do think, competition is good and it's everywhere, right? We compete for, a lot of things, and sports are competition in itself. And so growing up in a family that is competitive can be great. It can help you, it can push you to do things that you might not have done before, but it also can hurt you because, if you're not able to perform to the standards of what other people think, then it can really take a toll on you long term. And so, competition is competition and it's never going to go away. And we just have to be able to accept that maybe we're not always number one, right? And number two and number three are just fine.
That's a big thing for students that come to counseling. And I think as you enter into early adulthood, you're no longer a minor, so you're kind of out of your parents' home. So you have the privilege to kind of do what you want. You don't have to go to little league practice or, competitive basketball or whatever that looks like. And so it's a big struggle transitioning into that different life stage when you've done something for so many years and now you don't have to, and you figured out, I don't want to do it. And you receive a lot of feedback from your parents, what the expectations are, and it's not your journey, and that's okay. And so kind of setting a boundary, with the loved ones that think you should be doing something, you're not always going to get the feedback you want, but, if you are following the path that you want and that's in your heart, eventually they will come around and understand. It's hard sometimes. We see that a lot.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to add or respond? We have another question. Regarding boundaries, this one in the context of relationships, how can one relearn proper boundaries after being in a relationship where they felt that they had to prioritize someone else's well-being over their own? How do they relearn how to establish boundaries?
Yeah, that's me. Surprisingly, or not surprisingly, we've been tracking the top 3 issues every week this semester, and relationships is in the top 3. That is a big thing that students come and process. And so and I don't know the context of this question, if it was a healthy relationship or an unhealthy relationship, but if the expectations of that relationship is not what you had in mind for the rest of your life, then there's going to be some things that you have to do differently. And so reflecting on that relationship, recognizing what the red flags were for you. And a lot of people have difficulty doing that because those red flags are normal to them. And so processing it with somebody and saying, oh, you know, it wasn't okay that they body shamed me in front of my friends or told me they didn't want me to wear this, that, or the other. For some people, that's normal because that's what they've grown up with, or that's what they've heard at home, and they get into a relationship and figure that out. So reflecting on that relationship, identifying what the red flags were for you that didn't make you feel good, and making the effort to set boundaries when you enter a new relationship to do something differently. And so when you're in the new relationship, what's going to be different this time? Always try to tell the clients, what are you going to do differently this time? Because when you implement things that are different, then the process changes. And so that would be something very important to do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on the panel that has anything additional to add about reestablishing or relearning boundaries?
I think it's a process. I think it's a process all of your life, actually. And as you go through life and different relationships and different friendships and, quite honestly, different bosses, you learn boundaries and you realize that's crossing my boundary, or that doesn't feel good, and let me look at this and reevaluate. And it's okay. We are evolving individuals. And so it's okay to change your boundaries. May be a little alarming for friends and family when you first start pushing back a little bit, but that's okay.
Okay. And we have another question. As a peer mentor, I often encounter students who are open to forming friendships, but due to what are likely bad past experiences, they express reluctance to do so. What advice can you give to myself and also to students? So someone who is hesitant to get closer, I suppose.
I can start this question. This is a good question. We talk about boundaries up here, setting boundaries, but sometimes we have to be flexible with our boundaries and let other people in. And that can be very difficult based on past experiences. But again, reflecting on those relationships and knowing that maybe that person that affected you this way, that's not the standard, and that's not your standard. And that's not really how people should behave or act. And so being flexible with boundaries to give people a chance can be very challenging for some people who've been wronged, but it goes hand in hand with, there's rigid boundaries, porous boundaries, and healthy boundaries. And so if we can open our hearts to let people in and give them a chance, it can be very surprising and bring a lot of happiness.
I think I would also say that I heard recently a friend of mine said that relationships are built on trust and at the speed of trust. And so it takes time, right? And so continue to show up, continue to touch base, to continue to engage.
And to piggyback off of what you were saying, Kim, communicate that. If you had a bad experience in the past, it's okay to communicate and say, hey, I'm a little leery because of such and such happened to me. And like I stated before, that may give that person an open door to say, yeah, that happened to me too. And then you can move together, and understanding one another a little better and why that person's hesitant. They may not be off-putting because they don't like you, just because they've had, some bad past experiences.
Thank you. Are there other questions or comments? Anything from the audience that we didn't address today, or something that's come up? One more? Okay. If we have to take one thing away from this panel, what is a small habit we can implement in our daily life that you think will help our quality of life?
Take a break. Enjoy life. Look at the things that are around you and experience it. The world is an amazing place, and there's a lot of crazy, cool things out there. And just taking a break and getting out there and seeing those things are going to help you to feel like you're experiencing things in a different way.
Thank you.
It's kind of like what I was going to say. My daughter and I have this saying. She's a senior at UT. So we say, give yourself the 50. And that means for 50 minutes each day, you're doing exactly whatever it is you want to do. I don't care if it's dancing, working out, doing your nails, doing your hair, hanging out with somebody. For 50 minutes, it's solely for you. So my advice would give yourself the 50.
And along those lines, doing nothing is doing something. So slow down and know that if you're not on the go and you're just sitting and just being and in your feelings, it's okay. If it becomes problematic, maybe set a boundary with yourself, a time frame, or go talk to somebody. But remember, doing nothing is doing something, and you're taking care of yourself.
And then I'm going to go back to relationships. Make sure that you have one true friend or family member that you can just be gut honest with, and that they can hold space for you.
Thank you. Well, this has been a wonderful panel today. I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank our panelists for taking time to be here and coming to UHD. How about a round of applause?